We're going to talk to you about how we use data, how we talk about data at Mission Dolores Academy. Um, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit specifically about the culture of using data at your school. I think that it's important that you establish a culture amongst yourselves as teachers, between the administrators and the teachers, with the students and with the parents. And I know in our experience of having blended learning, you all of a sudden have all of this data available to you. And everyone talks about, oh, how much data you're going to have to be able to use. But then the question becomes, okay, how do you talk about that? And how do you get the support you need as a teacher to be able to use that effectively in your class? And how do you get parents and students to understand what that data means and how it's used? Those are all very important pieces that I think have to be in place for it to work effectively. So I feel like my role as the principal is to make sure that all those things I just described can happen in a school. And then you'll hear from the two teachers about actually how they are doing it in their classroom. I think that one thing that I try to set up is I make sure that there is time in the schedule for us as a staff, for the faculty to talk about data. And in the beginning, when we started using it, the conversations were about what should we do with all this information, and how should we talk about it, as well as saying, what does it mean? So what I tried to do is I tried to facilitate that. In one way, the data that we use is the data from the online programs, like the iReady, which they will tell you about, the 10 marks, all those. Also, we have our school-wide assessments that we give 3 times a year, and we get together and we talk about that information. So what I did is I created some structures for teachers to be able to talk about that, with some question prompts for them, specifically what I wanted them to think about, what I wanted them to look at in their data. And it was something that I wanted to be consistent across all the grades. And it included details where they take children's names and place them into tables according to the data. They are going to show you that. They're going to show you that template that I gave the teachers. They're going to show you examples of ones that they've filled out for their students and what that might look like. Okay? And then and part of that is identifying both individual students' needs, but then looking for group needs, big trends, big gaps in what maybe you are teaching or what the students are getting in your class or across a grade level. You get some really good information that helps you adjust your curriculum and your planning. So student conversations. We have, as I think I mentioned the other day, we have school-wide recognition. So we have our Achieve Champions. For Achieve 3000 is a reading program we use. And so for each of the programs, online programs we use, 10 marks, all of them, we have recognition awards every month. So there are student winners at each grade level. And sometimes those are based on achievement in the program. Sometimes, in addition, we give awards or recognition for growth because we want, if you have just achievement, who's on top, you'll find that maybe there's not a lot of difference month to month. It's the same students who are the top performing students every month. But what you want to have is build in opportunities to recognize children's efforts. So sometimes somebody may have a good month who's never going to be one of the very top performers, but they have a month where they were really working hard, they were really, really focused, and so they showed good growth in their programs. And so you want to recognize that. So we have those. So that's something we do school-wide to build a culture around students thinking about these programs, thinking about their work, and they are seeing the data that comes out. They are seeing the results of that, and we want to recognize that and let them know that we are thinking about it, talking about it, that it has an effect on them. Then we do our individual tracking of progress with the teachers and the parents. So for me as an administrator, I can go in and I go in and I see how classes on a whole, I can see how much time they're spending on a program. I can see the results for the students in that class and how much time they're spending on the different programs. And the reason I do that is to make sure that I am supporting the teachers. I can recognize if I see across the board that a program seems to be underutilized, it's not being used as much as some other programs. I can ask myself why that is, and I can ask teachers, maybe there's a problem with the program. Maybe teachers and students just don't like that program as much. But maybe it's a matter of training. Maybe the proper training hasn't been provided to the teachers, and I need to investigate that. So when I look at data in a class as a principal, I'm looking at it from the perspective of how can I support my teachers? What is it telling me that's going to help me offer them what they might need to do what I'm asking them to do? So I look at that, and I think it's important that for me that the teachers understand that we are working together, and you need that partnership. I think to have something be effective, you have to have everyone together, working together. Okay, and also, again, sharing the data with students. Michelle, Rochelle, they're going to talk about how they should share their data with the students. But that's very important, and we do, not only on the classroom software, but on the school-wide exams that we give 3 times a year, we share that data with students. We talk about it. We don't just give them a piece of paper that has what their score was. We talk about it with them, and they track it, and they see what their goals are for the next time. And we talk about that with parents at parent conferences. And so we have sheets that we use so that parents can then come to understand that and expect that, and then they can talk about it with their children. Because it's all about everybody talking about it, putting it right there out in front of them, and all understanding what it means for it to be successful. Okay? So that's my perspective on as a principal. I'm not going to go into specific reports or anything that I look at, because I think what you really most need to hear now is from the teachers and how they're using the data in their classrooms.
Buenos tardes. That's all I have for you. I'm going to share with you my class data, and it's really exciting for me because these are my babies, this is my hard work, and I know it's not as exciting for you to look at my own data, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but I can promise you if you go through this process, you will feel the exact same way as me. So here I have some math data that I had from the fall. This is where my students started the year with me, and this is from our NWEA test that they had. And if you look, you can see I have 9 students in red, which is low, bad. And I have 1 student here scoring high. Proud of that student, but 1 student, that's not so good for me. So what I need to do is I need to identify here, where are my students starting the year? I'm going to use some of the information for placing these students in groups, and then I need to find out, as I look further in the data, what do my students need? And this includes the time with me, and what can I do for my students on the computer. And so I'm going to show you, because this is where I get excited. Okay, remember, red, bad. Blue, good. This is now where they are at the end of the year, from all my hard work and all their hard work. No red. I went from 1 student to 6 students in the high, and everybody seemed to just move on over. So now what I want to look at is, how did my class grow? Do I see improvements? Do I see improvement? Yeah. Did my strategies work? Did the strategies work? Yes. And if they did work, how can I adapt this information for my class next year to be even more successful the following year? So like I said, students are different. They might have different needs. If they have the same needs, then I can kind of use that same information. Here, what I'm looking at, now these are fall reading results. This is where my kids started in the fall. Red. What is red? Bad, yeah. So I can look here where my class as a whole is fitting in. So I can see in reading that my class starting out the year is really struggling with literature and informational text. That's what I need to focus on. So what I did is I said, all right. Oh, and then after that, second to that is foundational skills. That's another area that I really wanted to focus in. So I collaborated with other teachers, and I chose to use strategies to help students really in these areas. I used the activities I used as I set up computer lessons that I assigned in these areas. I did a lot of close reading with me. Students used highlighters. They highlighted different parts of text with me. We did book club with me. And for the groups that really needed it, phonics review happened before book club, just to review those skills. Just keep on reteaching, keep on reviewing those skills. I'm not sure if I put in my spring. That's you. Okay, so looking at this, then when I did end the year, when I got my scores back in the spring, my lowest red area was in literature and informational text. That's where my students now scored the best. So all that hard work really did pay off.
I have a little bit less data. So we kind of do the same exact process. I'm going to show you 8th grade language arts. I've actually taught this group for 3 years. So my class average is pretty high. When they came in, they were already, as a class, reading at 9th grade, 10th month. So I had a wide range. I still had some students who were a little bit low, but then I have, as an average, a really high level of reading going on. So that's kind of where I started. And again, my area of focus was literature. And then here we are. And overall, I have 0% in the low. And everyone has moved up, and our grade level equivalency is 11 plus. So according to the chart you look at, it says the 8th graders are reading very well above grade level. 88% of my students met their goal, and 81% or above at grade level. So I focused on really literature, because in my theory, like, vocab comes with literature. They go together, especially in the middle school and the higher grades. So the more reading, the better vocab. And informational text, I could see, like, okay, well, next year I'm going to still continue focusing on that. That's fine. Oh, it's me again. So we look at the individual student. So I picked a student that I worked really hard with. I worked hard, but I was like really focused on this student because he was down in the lower range. And so I was able to see from spring 2014 all the way until now. And the blue line is the student, the yellow line is where he should be. So he is significantly below grade level, actually in both subjects. I'll give my partner some credit too. And he's leaving us ready for high school above grade level. So that's phenomenal. I just look at this data and I focus on him when I'm planning. Oh. The blue dots are what they project will happen during the summer slide. They're being negative already. Yeah.
So the blue line, which is Michelle earlier said to me, how can I get rid of the blue line? It seems so negative the way it goes down there. So that suggests what happens in the summer with a lot of kids. You know, they go, so this is where he is now. And they're saying that it's likely that if he takes the test again in the fall, he will be down here. Now, the reason it says that is it's just based on the statistical history, which shows that in the summer there's what we call a learning loss, which is very typical, where you see their scores going down. Hopefully that won't happen. Who knows if that will happen? But in our case, we were very disturbed about this across the board. That's where a case where the data became so obvious. We kind of know that happens. We all know that happens. But when we really looked at our data, we realized how serious it was across the board, kindergarten through 8th grade. And as a result, we've established a summer program, 5-week, all-day summer program that we are beginning this summer. And again, that's just a result of looking at our data.
So Dan referenced it earlier. We get our data from NWA or the MAP test, and so we have to analyze it, and we create student achievement plans based on the quartiles the students are in. So we have a plan for basically low, medium, above, and way above. So there are 4 quartiles we have to focus on and strategize for. So we have you.
I will mention, I know you guys aren't doing the MAP test as we do, but information that you're seeing that is like this, that's been really helpful to us. Those are included when you play around with your report settings in anybody that is using the adaptive programs for the students. When they take a diagnostic, you can get these results and you can really play around with it the way that we're doing. So, when I did my student achievement plan, I had to put my students, really see which students fit where. And so when I did it in the winter, I had one student in low, I had all these students low average, and you can just see kind of where they fall. And so I had to ask myself a few questions. Which skill areas are students really still struggling with in that low and low average group? So I had to look through and see, okay, these are the students, I've identified the students. Now, am I seeing a trend? Am I doing something wrong? Am I slipping somewhere? What do they really need from me? And as I looked through, I found that it was phonics, the foundational skills. So I had to account for that in doing my grouping, so I had to build a strategy. And that's when I did a lot of review. I added lessons on the computers. Like I said, I did that phonics review before going into book clubs. And the other thing I did was when I went into book clubs, I chose kind of word family books. So we were still doing reading strategies, but also focusing on those foundational skills. And as a result, when I look at my spring scores, most students moved up to average in that spring. So by me really analyzing and looking at, okay, I know who these students are, now what do they really need, I was able to move them over. And please don't look at this. I'm just proving to you that this is how I do it. I can see individual data, where each student is scoring and in what areas. So as I looked through, I could see, oh, in A, I have more of the lows and low average as I looked through.
So then each teacher has to, the second part of this activity is to like strategize for each of the quartiles, which I talked about. And I just do really general ideas and strategies that will work for them, or that I think that will work for them. So like I purposely put the low and average in the smaller group so I can focus a little bit more on them, and my high, average to high are in larger groups with more challenging text to push them. And my highest group, I really challenge them. This is a good way for the online component because they're really reading challenging novels to push them even beyond what I can do in the class. So we can read a 9th, 10th grade book in class, and they can read even a more difficult one online, and they're happy. And then I focus on these two, my low and my average, and I mix them so they're not, my low's not always, or with that, they get mixed up because everyone needs to be challenged, and that's the goal. But it's just basic comprehension strategies and different groupings and challenging texts and novels. All right.
So now we're going to take a short time for you guys to kind of do a think aloud in a group at your tables. And we just, can you go to the next slide? And we just want you to like discuss in your table, like we've had to do, how are you going to meet the needs of your students by looking at data? And this is just a quick 5-minute conversation just to think aloud at your table. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the way I look at the data I get from the program I use online. So if you've been around me for more than 5 minutes, you know I use Curriculate a lot. So I just picked a small group from Curriculate for one chapter that they've done. And I can't really see it here, but they're different colors. And I picked one where I saw students struggling. So I'm able to see like who did their work. One student didn't do their homework, and I could bother her later. But it has the standards. It has theme, summary, character development. And so I see theme and summary that 78% hit it, which is good, but then it also gives me an opportunity to look to see who struggled with that one standard. So I'm able to see that 4 students struggle with, theme and summary. So that would be a good opportunity for me to pull just 4 students really briefly. I mean, not a full lesson, 10 minutes maybe, and just kind of review where they went wrong. And I'm able to see the questions that they had trouble with. So I would just kind of review and talk about it just for a quick moment if I decided to. So it's just a really quick way to have a small group discussion, see what they're struggling with. There are times where it's a little bit lower, so I couldn't find it when I was looking, but there are times where it's like 50%. So I'm like, hey, that's a red flag for me. I need to go pull that group and figure out what's wrong, because clearly they're missing some skill. And I'd also mention that this is a 10th grade standard they're not meeting. So, and it's actually a lot of my 7th graders, they're mixed in there, that didn't meet that standard. So, you know, it's 3 of my 7th graders who struggled with it. So that's good to know, that my 8th graders know it, but my 7th graders struggled a bit. So I can pull and work with them. Well, you can write my review. All right. So, communicating goals to students.
Okay, so when I first started 4 years ago, the blended learning, I was noticing the kids on the computers not really trying that hard. They just thought it was games. They would like go and just take forever on a test, or just go and just click, 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 because they didn't think I was looking. And so I had to like really figure out a way to get them to buy in and them to notice, oh, she can see what I'm doing. You know, and so I had to like really, yeah, oh, yep. And so now what I do is I came up with kind of a sticker chart system where I can look at the program results and then kind of put a value on it and do sticker charts. And what I do, this is not like the highest achiever, this is not like who is scoring at the highest level, this is like work completed, are you trying? And because it's because they take the diagnostic and it's adaptive, it's at their level, so I'm not saying, okay, you're the highest and you get a prize and you're the lowest, sorry. No, it's like work completed on your level. So I just want them trying. So what I do is I look at the data, and this is lessons completed. This is the lessons that they've passed, and I look at the iReady data, and I can say, you can see here that students are doing pretty good, but you definitely have some students that are doing more, and some students that are doing less. This little girl, Talia, that's not fair. She left the school, and then I got a new student, and she's using Talia's stuff, so leave Talia alone. So what I do is I have sticker charts, and they're posted in the back, and I have a chart for every program that they are working on, especially those adaptive programs. And I transfer all the information that I can see, because they can't see this. And I then move it onto a display so the students can see. And for every 5 activities, they get a sticker. For every 25 activities, they get a certificate, and that's pretty much for their parents. The kids really care less about the certificates. And they get a small prize out of a treasure box. And this is like a 5-minute thing we do every Wednesday, and we call kids up with their certificates, and they cheer for them, they pick a prize, and it's a fun thing for these kids to be rewarded, and everybody eventually gets that prize. And once the kids start seeing, hey, that kid just got 2 certificates, and hey, where am I? How come I didn't get there? They start looking at the sticker chart. And they start seeing, okay, when am I going to be at 25? Oh, 5 more lessons, you know, so they really start seeing where they are, and they monitor themselves. I don't have to monitor them, they start monitoring themselves. It's really easy for me to track. Kids love it, and parents love to come in and see it, so the parents come in and can track their child. The other thing I notice is when a kid isn't trying on the computers, it reflects on the sticker chart. So then when I see the parent, I say, hey, have you come in to see your child's progress on the sticker charts? And they go, no. And I said, why don't you go ahead and look at the sticker charts, and you can have a talk with your child tonight. And they do that. The parent has a talk with the child that evening, and the next day at school, I'm seeing that child trying on the computers. Oh, this is the goal. Oh.
So for the middle school, we have the students set goals. So this is the way we communicate with the parents and the students where they are. So my partner and I created just a sheet. And it's fairly simple. We just want to know where their fall rate is, their national percentile rank, their winter, and their spring. So each middle school student fills it out. We're just asking, does this score reflect your potential? So very rarely does a student say, oh yeah, I scored really low. It completely reflects my potential. So they're like, no, it doesn't. I want them to explain it. Maybe I didn't eat breakfast. Maybe I was distracted. All these things. And then we want them to kind of strategize. How will you reach your goal? And how can your teachers help you? Is there something we can do to help you reach your goals? Is there something you can do to reach your goals? And it's cut off. We make them sign it at the bottom. Kind of little contract. And then report card conferences. Fall comes. We have those scores there. We try to have the students actually explain it to their parents. If the student's not there, we'll explain it. And actually, the parents kind of bother us for it. They're like, where are the scores? I'm like, okay. They put in their winter scores, and then they put in their spring scores, and we get to talk about that again. So we talk twice. The kids know it. The kids set goals this year. Middle school, I said if you hit your goal, you get some extra credit. They were very excited because I don't do extra credit. So it really was, I never do extra credit. I'm like, all right, here's your moment. And they really, really were pushing to get that extra credit. So I really like this. It's a good way. I keep them all year, and we kind of reference them occasionally, especially during winter. All right.
So now we're going to have you guys do another roundtable discussion about how are you going to share data with your class. Now, I do the sticker chart system, and it's really, really great for kindergarten through second grade, but I get it. It's a little juvenile for those older kids. So I also know teachers that have their computer right in front of the students and will pull up a student's personal data, call them over, show them the data that they're seeing. You saw what Michelle does with the goals and the testing. We have the Blended Learning Champion Board to share data. So it's just...
I'm sorry. We also send home weekly progress reports to parents. So that's an important part of sharing, not just like computer data or NWA scores, it's just their overall performance. So every Wednesday, we print out every single student's grade in our 4 core subjects, gets sent home, and parents have to sign it. And every single week, so there are no surprises and no one is yelling at me at conference time. I'm like, you've seen it every week. There's no surprise here. Your signature is on it. We've told you it's here. And they get points for bringing it back. Oh, 7th and 8th, it's what we've decided to do in the middle school just to make sure parents know exactly what is happening, make sure the students know exactly what is happening, and that's an important part of sharing our data beyond just, these are your scores, but this is your performance. All right.
So what you really want to do is you really want to kind of develop a system in your class so your students know that you can see the data. You can see what they're doing on the computers, and you want them to have buy-in, and you want them to feel motivated in some way. So we just want you to take 5 minutes to discuss at your table, kind of what do you see, what do you envision for sharing your data with your students?
Well, I just think you could use data from different sources. You can definitely share their grade. That's data. So if parents know their grade once a week, that's sharing data. It doesn't have to be like, well, ours is on the internet too, but sending it home and having them sign it, it's like right in their face. They can't say they didn't see it, or they didn't log on, or they forgot, or their password was blah, 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 blah. It's right there.
I think that the data is one of the most important things, and I had some questions, and they clear to me. What is important about the data for the students and the parents is that Blended is a student-centered program. So we give them power to the student to be responsible for his own progress. in the questions you put, like, you don't say you put, but that's my English. In the in the questions that you said, what are you gonna give? In the questions you said, what are you gonna do as a student? Is making what all parents do at home. Give responsibility to the kid of his own behavior, of his own progress. So it's very important to share data with the students first. And I love the way that the student explains the data to his parents, because we teachers, we do not grade. They make work and they receive their effort or not effort.
So I'm just going to use this opportunity, since it's the last time we're going to be presenting. I just want to both thank you for being open to listening to what we have shared with you over the past few days. I know we've shared specific strategies and programs, but really I hope what you felt from us is that the reason I was comfortable saying yes, we would come here and talk to you guys, is that this is just something that we do, that we have sort of developed over the last 4 years, not really knowing where we were headed with this or whether we would even continue with it, but have arrived at a place where we do really like it. We really do think this makes a difference. It makes a difference for the kids. It makes our teaching better, and makes, I see it in the staff, and myself included as a principal, feeling better about what we do. And so that makes us kind of excited to share with you. And I have to thank you too, because you've been an amazing group of people to talk to. I was a little worried about that too, what kind of reception we would get. But it's been a wonderful reception. You've been really open and engaged and asking really good questions, and are clearly very committed to what you are doing, and interested in learning, and it's been impressive, and that's made it a very fun experience. So just wanted to say thank you.